Yeah, man. No, that's the beatboxing thing is, that was like a completely like thing we just came up with on the fly. That wasn't in the pilot. And Christian, David, and I, the director, were making a joke, talking about something. I said, I think this guy should have a talent that is so weird, like something really obscure that he's really good at. And they were like what? And I was like, maybe he's a badass beatboxer or something like that. And so I started beatboxing for them, and they loved it. And so we put that scene in there. We were actually up there filming the pilot, and then decided to add a new scene into a pilot, which is, I don't know if you guys how familiar you are with this, but that never happens. You don't ever get to being up there filming and then write a new scene. So I was pretty, it was also kind of a cool sense of collaboration. You know what I mean? Oftentimes as an actor, you're similar to an athlete. Your coach is the one who calls the plays. Your job is to execute the play that they want to do. But sometimes you want to break that play and do something that you may feel on the fly might be a better option. And fortunately, Chris and David thought that was a solid choice to make. So, just growing up and shit, dude. I mean, I never any class or anything. I went to Juilliard's beatboxing school. Yes. Huh? You have your master's in beatboxing? Yes, I have my master's in beatboxing. Yes, it's my PhD. But yeah, just something. I'm kind of a musician. Anyway, I was on Broadway for a while, so music's always kind of been.
I wanted to ask about that, actually. If I can just completely cut you off from the
Sure.
I apologize for that. So you played Seaweed.
Correct.
For a while, which is amazing.
Thank you. Tony nominee, didn't win, but nonetheless was nominated.
2004 was a really strong year, and I'm sure you deserved it. But at any rate, did you always want to go into screen acting, or was theater kind of your game?
Can I be really honest with you? I've never given a really truly honest answer to this question. The honest answer is, during the course of my career, I started off performing at theme parks. And when I was working at theme parks, everyone was talking about getting jobs on cruise ships. And when I got done at the theme park, I started working on cruise ships. And then when I was on cruise ships, everyone's talking about, theater. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll do that. Because it seems like that was the next step. Everyone working here wanted to get here. Everyone working here wanted to get here. And so when I came off the ships and started doing some regional theater, then in essence got cast in Hairspray. And then when you're on Broadway, television is what everyone's talking about doing next. And then when you get to television, it's movies. So for me, I've always tried to just do what felt good. And I've been blessed enough that I've been able to make those choices, and they worked out for me. But I don't know. I don't know if it was something that. I think it was just more of the natural progression of where things were going for me. In the grand scheme of things, it makes sense that I'm in LA because I write as well. And quite frankly, television and film, in a lot of ways, is a lot easier than Broadway.
You've got the 8 shows a week.
8 shows a week is really hard.
Yeah.
And truth be told as well, I got tired of being worried about my voice, waking up every morning and and seeing what it's going to be. And another truth is I have I've been blessed enough to have experienced the heights of Broadway. I've been blessed enough to be on a hit television show, and I've been blessed enough to be in films that have done really well as well. So I'm not trying to repeat anything. For me to come back to theater, I know what that's like. We won the Tony. We were the talk of the town for a while. So it was more about searching for new itches to scratch. I know that when I was doing theater, I didn't have the chops for screen acting. So that was the challenge. And then television chops, slightly different than movie chops, so that became the challenge. So it's all about what feels as though it's a challenge that I want to kind of undertake.
And what about this role did you feel like was a challenge that you wanted to take on?
That's a good question. I didn't really feel this. I think the challenge for me was letting go and walking into the room and not being afraid to do something weird. I think it's always easier to play it safe. I think that's every actor's kind of you know your bits and what you do, and just like if you're an athlete, you know what your shot is, you know what you're good at, and I when I read this, it was pretty clear pretty immediately to me that this was special and unique, and I was just laughing out loud the whole time. And so when I went in to read, I basically just decided that I wasn't going to be afraid of looking ridiculous. And so I gave him this really, really hardcore like twang and had him be like kind of a little hyper at the same time. And I improvised a little bit as well in the room. And it just worked. I think when I was listening to some of the other actors, because you could hear them through the wall when you're auditioning, I'm not going to say anything bad about anyone's performance, but it felt like to me everyone was just kind of reading the words and not creating a character. And so I just was like, no, if they hate it, they hate it, but I'm going to go in here and try to do something different, and it worked. So.
What's your approach with, because obviously everyone's saying that take a lot of liberties from the source material. What's your approach to dealing with that? Do you approach the comics again, read the comics? Do you approach it with some script? I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
Yeah, no, go ahead. For me, it's like when I first booked it, I read a few of the different comics, but I also want to be surprised by how the story evolves. I kind of want to be. I didn't want to know. First of all, I don't think that we're mirroring the comics identically. I think Chris is going in some different directions, but I also just didn't want any insight as to what was going to happen. I wanted to be surprised, and I actually just read 1 and 2 on the flight out here yesterday, and they're outstanding. I mean, they're right in line with what we're doing, and if the reaction to the pilot is any indicator, I think I'm optimistic the show is going to do really well.
Can we expect to see any of your other musical talents on the show this season? Like maybe Sheriff Mike's a singer?
We've talked about that. I think one thing that's great is we're all open to whatever our abilities are. I think Chris is going to showcase us in the strongest possible light. So if you can juggle kittens, then there might be a chance, there might be a scene where you're juggling kittens. It just really depends upon what. And I think that's great because it allows us to bring something personal to the roles. And anytime you can connect with a role on a deeper level, your performance is going to shine. So, yeah.
So your character has a very, very strong opening when it comes in. I think everyone in the room when you go, whoa. So then, are we going to find out, do you think, what led up to your character being really
the way he is?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely, I think, as far as I know, there's definitely going to be some unveiling of his backstory, and from what I understand, there's going to be some explanation as to why he is the way that he is. I think he's just perpetually pissed off. You know what I mean? I think he's just a curmudgeon, and I think he's suspicious of everyone. He thinks he's probably smarter than everyone. I think his deputy is a lot smarter than him. I think Deputy Liv is definitely smarter than him. But I think he's dedicated and determined. Now, what he's determined to do, that's where the question mark is. But I think he's got some traits there that are going to be explored and explained to the audience a little more. 'Cause I have questions too. We don't come into this knowing everything. You know what I mean? Like I said, Chris has, I think he's written 1 through 8, and I've only read 1 through 3. So.
Looking at your history with film and television, you have a lot of roles really grounded in realism. What draws you to genre, to sci-fi, to more abstract comedic stuff like this?
Well, I actually started off in comedy. I mean, Hairspray was a comedy, and then all of a sudden I got roped into drama, and I think that I willfully was roped in because it was something that I hadn't explored before, so I had to prove to myself that I could do it. But I think if you're a solid comedic actor, drama is easier. Drama is left open to interpretation. Comedy is far more specific because comedy, when you're talking about a punchline, everyone needs to have the same thought at the same moment. Whereas with a drama, 50 people can watch someone give a performance and find 50 different things about it that work for them. But when you're talking about doing comedy, it's imperative that you get everyone on the same wavelength at the exact same moment, which I think is actually harder. So it was refreshing to come back to comedy. It's just a lighter feel. You know what I mean? It's just there's an ease to this that is refreshing to me. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure.